Alright, welcome back for part 2 of Zentangle. So, now that I have my 3 words that describe me written, I'm now going to take my 2 Sharpies and I'm going to go in with my fine tip, which is the bigger of the 2. And it should have a nice point on it because you should have new Sharpies. And I'm just going to go slowly. I'm going to outline my words. And I don't want this to be sketchy, y'all, okay? So what I don't want to see is we did sketchy lines with our pencils. And when we were holding our pencils for the back with your Sharpie, I want you to hold it further up just like you're doing cursive. I don't want sketchy lines. I want you to start at the top and pull towards you when possible, okay? If you need to turn to make that happen, you can. There are some letters you just have to do your best and pulling towards you, okay? If you can't see, when I kind of started pushing in a weird direction, sorry. Come on, adjust. There we go. Sorry, y'all. If you can't tell, if you look, when I started kind of pushing the marker, it started making these little bumps. So you gotta try to pull in one direction, okay? When you're using the Sharpie, take a blank piece of paper and put it behind. If you need to, put 2 blank pieces behind, because what's going to happen is the Sharpie's going, and I can promise you this, it is going to it is going to bleed through your paper and can ruin your other pages in your sketchbook, and we're going to try to waste as few pages as possible in your sketchbook. So, I'm going to start. You're going to come through. Remember, you're working slowly, trying to pull towards you as much as possible. Now, I don't quite like that, so what I can always do is go back through, and I actually encourage this, to go back through and beef up the lines a little bit. Now, I don't want you coloring the whole word black, but like I said, you can beef up the line a little bit to suit your needs. And what it does by beefing up the line is it creates a barrier between the Zentangle and your letter anyway, so it's actually a really good idea to do this. And I said, don't really do this with your ultra fine Sharpie, because if you try to do this with the ultra fine Sharpie, if you notice I'm kind of turning this as I need to. It's your sketchbook. Turn it as you need to. Don't do this with the ultra fine Sharpie because it'll take longer and you'll just kill your ultra fine Sharpie. It'll get used too much. Alright, so I have the outside of my D done. What I can't forget is the inside. Now this line, I might want to make sure that I'm keeping on the thinner side as much as possible. My D looks a little funny, but that's okay. I'm going to go around my A. Now I'm going to go kind of back around. If you notice, I'm not connecting my black line yet, because I can always go back in and fill it. And I'm trying to do this as much in one stroke as possible to keep from accidentally putting down streaky lines, because what I don't want is sketchy lines with your Sharpie. So I'm going to do this. I'll go through, and I'll do this with all my letters. I'll finish up the word daughter with you on camera, and then I'll try to finish up at least one more word before class so that y'all can see it. When I get to the bottom of this G, that doesn't work out well. So I'm going to go through like that. Being very careful. Try to do as little pushing away from you as possible. Okay. What I don't want to see happen is your letters get smaller. I want them to still stay nice and big. I don't want them uber big, because if they're uber big, then what's going to happen is you won't have enough space in your background. So you need to find that happy balance. As Bob Ross says, happy little trees, happy little backgrounds. If y'all show interest, we might watch a Bob Ross video at one point. Or who knows, play Bob Ross bingo together at some point. We'll find out. So as you can see, my E might be a little bit of a problem when I'm doing this. So what I'm going to do is I don't want my E to be super small, so I'm actually going to go out a little bit further than what I planned. If you need to draw that out with your pencil, please do. Don't do it with Sharpie first. If you're not super, like 100% confident, because you cannot erase Sharpie. You can use whiteout, but whiteout looks a little weird later on once it's dry on an art project. So I'm going to try to go out more with this one because I don't want to crowd the inside of the E. Okay, now as you see, I kind of lost my R. I'm going to go back in, erase that little bit. Kind of redraw my R. Actually, I might redraw it a little bit further down. Alright, now I'm going to go back in with my Sharpie. Don't forget that little part there. So now I'm going to go in with the Sharpie to do my bold line. To kind of correct some of my stuff that I did, I'm kind of going to do the bold line a little bit further in. There you go. Don't forget that little bit there. Alright, so that's one way to bold up your lines. Obviously, I don't particularly like part of my D, so I'm gonna go and bold up the inside just a little bit. And I messed up, so now I'm bolding more than I planned. So you gotta be careful. Alright, I like it a little bit better now. I'm going to have to go in and bolt these up just a little bit, but I got to be super careful, especially with that E. Y'all, just be careful while you're outlining. Once you're done, you let it dry for a second, and I'm going to show you, if you look, it bled through, but because I had this piece of paper, it caught it instead of going on to my next sheet. So it's really important that you have a sheet, a nice thick piece of paper, if not a thick piece of paper, then like 2 or 3 sheets of paper behind it so it catches any of the bleeding. Alright, that is it for part 3. Bye. Or part 2. Ooh.